Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Arjun. It's been a while since I've made a video, or at least recorded a video. The last one I did was the I Am Music reaction, which should be out on my channel by now. And I just haven't had time to review a lot of the movies I've seen and stuff like that. So I am going to go back and review some of the earlier movies that came out this year. And I also want to do a bunch of videos that I just couldn't do, like at the end of last year, like my best movies of the year lists and stuff like that. We'll see if I get a chance to do that, but I'll definitely review some of the movies I watched the last couple of months. But in this video, I wanted to talk about Sinners. This is a new movie directed by Ryan Coogler, and it stars Michael B. Jordan as two characters, actually. And I didn't know much about this movie, actually. I knew that it had something to do with vampires and stuff like that. And it took place in like the 1920s, 30s, something like that. And I watched the first trailer for it that released in front of some movie a while ago. So that's all I knew. I didn't know much about the plot. I didn't know what it was going to be about. And honestly, I just didn't know anything about it. Like, I vaguely remember the trailer. I actually didn't even know that there were two Michael B. Jordans in this movie. So there's like so many things about this movie I just didn't know. But then the reviews started coming out and everyone was praising this to be like the best movie of the year. It had a crazy good opening weekend and stuff like that. So because of all the hype surrounding it, I actually wasn't going to watch it in theaters, but because of all the hype surrounding it, I ended up watching it, and I'm so glad I did because I loved this movie. Before I share my thoughts on this movie, guys, let me know down in the comments, what did you think of Sinners if you've seen it? If you've not seen it yet, go check it out. It's a fantastic film. I think you'd really enjoy it. With that said, I'm going to start with my review, and the movie basically follows these two brothers, Smoke and Stack, both played by Michael B. Jordan, and they're starting a new juke joint at their town after coming back with a lot of money and stuff like that. And that's the opening premise of the movie. And they have a bunch of side characters. You have Haley Steinfeld, who plays a character named Mary, and there's Sammy, who is the singer in the movie, and there's just a lot of characters. I don't remember a lot of them, if I'm being honest, but I do know that those are like the primary ones that you really need to know about, and I think the movie just does a great job of bringing the focus on these characters. Because if I'm being honest, the movie didn't feel like a vampire movie for the entire first half of it. It really had nothing to do with vampires for the first half. It's not until the second half where they actually start becoming a prominent part of the story. And basically, we see these characters, we see their relationships, we see what they're going through and stuff like that throughout their lives. And you kind of just start rooting for them throughout the movie. And they're really likable. You get some really great performances too. I think Miles Caton, the guy that plays Sammy, I think he did a great job. He was really just a likable character. And every time he's on screen, he's interesting. I'm not sure if he did the singing himself, but if he did, the singing was fantastic too. The movie has a lot of music encoded in it, and I don't mean that just through the character. I think just the score of the movie, the soundtrack, the songs that are played throughout, and there's even a couple of sequences where they incorporate modern music and older music, and I thought that was a really interesting creative choice. I think it worked. In the sense, it was also kind of distracting from the movie. I think it was just kind of odd where a lot of music that took place in the future was in the movie. I think I understand what creatively Ryan Coogler was going for, but I think it was kind of an odd choice because it kind of took me out of the movie a little bit. But that's not a big problem. I just think the idea of music being such a big part of this movie and have the music having to do with these demonic elements that are also surrounding this movie, I thought that was an interesting kind of back and forth between the thematic elements in this movie, because there's a lot of things being explored here because of the time it takes place, and there's also references to things like the KKK and stuff like that, and all of that I think was kind of just packaged into this movie really well, because in a sense you assume there's a lot going on here, but at the same time the movie is able to make it like a simple story, a straightforward story, where you're following these characters and you're in the juke joint, and there's like different characters showing up, and you're rooting for these people. You want them to survive, you want them to make it out when the vampires show up. So I think they just did a really good job of kind of immersing us into this world, and making us care about the characters. On a technical level too, the movie is absolutely fantastic. It looks great. The cinematography, shot selection, all of that is just so fantastically done. And we kind of know that from Ryan Coogler. Even like the Black Panther movies, the Creed movies, they have really good cinematography. So I think no surprise here. This is a fantastic looking film, but I think I'd argue this is easily his best looking film. Visually, it's just fantastic. There's not much CGI going on. There's moments with some heavy CGI and it's kind of noticeable, but there's not enough CGI in the movie to kind of distract you. It's all just, most of it feels like it's practical, and I think it's really well done. And if there is CGI incorporated into some of these scenes, it's just done so seamlessly, you can't really tell. So I really like that. Like I said, I think since the movie doesn't have too much crazy stuff going on, especially in the first half of the movie, there's not any vampire things. It's able to bring the attention to the characters rather than the big bombastic sequences. So in the first half of the movie especially, you're kind of just invested in the characters and you're kind of following them to see where it's going. And speaking of the characters, obviously you have to talk about Michael B. Jordan here, and I think he's fantastic. He plays Smoke and Stack, who are two twin brothers, and he plays them differently enough that you can tell which one's which. And I thought that was really cool because it can be pretty easy to get lost between the two of them because, like I said, they look the same. They're basically the same person in a sense, but he's able to like kind of emote both of them slightly differently, that where it's like it's noticeable enough that you can tell that they're different people, but not so noticeable that it takes you out of the movie. So I thought that was really great. In the scenes where both of them were on screen together too, I don't know if they CGI'd it. I don't know if they had both of them kind of act out their parts and kind of put the scenes together. I don't know how they did that, but it was basically seamless. Like I said, there's not much CGI in the movie, but when it's there, it's just so really, really well done. So I couldn't really tell that it was CGI. That it just looked like two Michael B. Jordans on screen, and I thought that was fantastic too. But I think just the two characters, I think they're able to bring kind of a fun, light-hearted feel to the characters as well. I think that was there, and I think that was really enjoyable. And we also had to talk about Haley Steinfeld here. She's not as big of a part of the movie as I thought she would be. I thought she was gonna have like a lot bigger of a role. But when she's on screen, she's really good. I think her performance, especially after she turned into a vampire, was really great. And even before, she doesn't have too much to add to the story, but when she's there, I think she works. It was just kind of odd kind of seeing her in a role like this because it is very overtly sexual. And she has like a lot of sexual elements to her character, which I thought was very interesting because most of the things I've seen her in are like PG-13-ish. So it's just kind of a weird change, but it works. I think she was able to do a really good job with her character too. But of course, it is a vampire movie, so you do have to talk about the horror elements here. And I think I don't think the movie is necessarily scary, but it is very intense because once you're invested in these characters, you don't want them to die. You're rooting for them and stuff like that. So when you do get to the vampire portion of the movie in the second half, you're just kind of waiting for something bad to happen. You're just seeing all of these characters. And I think what this movie did really well is not have characters make really stupid decisions, which I really liked. I think that was fantastic because it just does a really good job of making these characters realistic and emotional enough so that you can tell that they're human beings and they're not just robots, but not so overtly emotional that they can't think. They're not illogical. They're very logical. They're actually pretty smart. They don't make random stupid decisions the way most characters in horror movies do. Here they make decisions normally, and I think it works really well in favor of the movie because it's not really distracting. But the horror elements when the vampires are on screen work really well. I think the vampires are like really interesting too. They kind of have a sense of humor to them, which I really appreciated. And as you go into the third act, when the action kicks in and all that stuff, it does get really crazy. I do think there's some really fun moments here and there. The only thing I will say that about the action in this movie, I don't think the action sequences were particularly like thrilling. And I know it's not really supposed to be. It's like these people that are just fighting off vampires. So it kind of was like, okay, it is what it is. That's how it felt like to me. It didn't feel like a great action. It didn't feel like there were any great action set pieces. It didn't feel anything like that. And I think the third act to me, not necessarily the ending of the movie. I actually really liked the ending of the movie. I think the third act itself, though, felt kind of unsatisfying. I think what comes after the third act is really satisfying. The way the movie actually ends, with kind of showing us what happens to Smoke and Stack, I think that was really good. And also what happens to Sammy, our singer character here. I think that was really good. I think everything about the ending of the movie was really good, but the third act and the final set piece and stuff like that was kind of underwhelming to me. Because the setup for the movie was so good, I just don't think the third act really lived up to everything that was set up. I really was satisfied by the end of it, but I think as far as the action goes and the horror elements goes in the third act, I was a little bit let down by that. That doesn't change the fact that this is a great movie. I still think this is a great movie, and there's a lot of things I really loved about it. I do think the third act could have been more satisfying, and I think it was slightly underwhelming for me because of the way the rest of the movie was so meticulously crafted, so well put together. I do think the third act could have been better. So for my score, I'm going to give Sinners an 87%. It is a great movie, don't get me wrong. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. There's a lot of things I loved about it. It just has some issues that I don't particularly think make this movie as amazing as some people are saying it is. It is great, though. Don't get me wrong. I did love it. I do think it's the best movie of the year so far. And it'll probably end up being in my top 10. I'm not sure about top 5. That seems like a stretch because there is a lot of good stuff coming out this year. But we'll see. I do think it'll end up being in my top 10 movies of the year, though, because it is just such a great movie. So yeah, guys, those are my thoughts on Sinners. Let me know down in the comments, what did you think about the movie if you've seen it. If you enjoyed my review, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this. Also, follow me on my other social media. I'll leave links to those in the description below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.